Hey everybody, my name is Alex with Hake Hardware, and in this video we are going to go over how to get an Autonomys Node set up on Windows 11. And the first thing that you want to do is just make sure your system meets the requirements. I have a link to the official wiki here. It goes over what you need for running a node versus running a farm. And typically if you have at least 100 gigabytes of storage for the node data and you have a decent CPU, then you're going to be fine. The node does take a little bit of resources, but again, most new setups, you're going to be fine. And just to give you a brief overview of what we're going to do, we're going to set up a Autonomys folder and we're going to create a node directory, and then that is going to be basically where we store all of our node data. You can store your node data on a separate drive if you want. Like let's say you don't have 100 gigabytes on your OS drive. You can always, let's say you have, a second drive that's like 1 terabyte. You can store your node data on that. It should be an SSD though. No hard disks, like spinning disks. That's not going to work very well. You're probably going to run into some issues. So then we'll download the executable, move it over to the Autonomys Node folder, and then we're going to jump right into getting our node started. And we're going to go over, what the typical command looks like, and then we'll talk about how we can use a script so we can actually turn our command into a script so it's a little bit easier to manage. And then there's just some additional options down here, like if you need to set alternate ports. So this wiki will be linked in the description of the video. And let's jump into Windows and see how it's done. So the first thing, we're going to open up our File Explorer. I'm going to go to my home directory. I'm going to right click, new folder, and we're just going to call it I think I have too many. Nope, that's how you spell it. Then jump into that. I'm going to do new folder node, and eventually we'll have a farmer directory here, but for now we just need the node. And now that we have that, we can go to I'm just going to copy the link to the releases page, and you're going to look for the latest tag. So right now we're in Taurus. If mainnet's launched, you might look for mainnet, but for now, Taurus November 01 is the latest version. And there's going to be two different versions. So if we go down here, you can see we're going to have to click Show All Assets to see. Actually, let me make this a little bit bigger. We're going to have to click Show All Assets to see the node files down here. All the way at the bottom, we have Skylake and V2, and there's some information on what Skylake and V2 is. I'm going to be using V2 because I am actually in a Proxmox virtual machine running Windows. It makes it a little bit easier for me to share my screen. And I couldn't get Skylake to work even though I have like a 14th gen CPU. But basically, if you look at this, Skylake it's about 2015-ish or newer. It's going to be Skylake or AMD Ryzen. And then between like 2009 and 2015, you're going to run V2. And if you have a really old processor, you might still be able to use it. You're just going to need to manually compile the files yourself. So let's go down. I'm going to get the V2, but like I said, most CPUs newer than 2015, you're probably going to want Skylake. And really, if you run it and it doesn't work, try the other one and then it might work. So I'm going to just download this. We're going to open up our download. I'm going to cut and then go to my Autonomys Node folder. I'm going to paste it in there. And now we have our executable. So if I right click and I go to open in terminal, I can actually run my node directly from here. So if I you can do autocomplete. So if I just type in sub and hit tab, it grabs that exe file. And then we're going to do run. And then we're going to do -- chain is going to be Taurus. So that's the current chain that we're going to be using. And we can see it's in the name of the file here. Then -- base - path. Now I'm going to run my node data in the current directory. So to do that, a good way of doing it is a $ and then get location. That's going to basically do the full path to the current directory. And then we're going to be running, and you can put the node data, like I said, on another drive or another place. You just need 100 gigabytes of storage and it should be an SSD. Then we'll do dash dash farmer because there are multiple types of nodes you can run. We're going to be running a farmer node because it's going to connect to a farmer. Then we'll do dash dash name, and I'm just going to do HIG hardware tutorial. This is basically what's going to show up when, like on the telemetry servers. It's not a big deal. You can basically put whatever you want. And then dash dash, I do Prometheus listen, oops, listen dash on. This is for metrics. So if you want metrics to be published by your node, this will allow you to scrape those metrics with Prometheus. So as part of the larger guide for the Windows CLI, there is going to be how to set up a Prometheus service on Windows, set up Grafana, and then track and monitor all of your Autonomys stuff through Grafana. You create some really cool dashboards. Okay, so this should run. And now we've got the node going. So it's going to just do some connection things here, and it'll start to sync. It does take a little while initially to sync. You're going to see these syncing logs with 0.0 for a little while. Target, this is the blockchain height that we want to get to, and this is our current like local blockchain height. So we're at 0 of 176,000 blocks. We have 3 peers. We should get more and more peers. If you forwarded your ports correctly, typically you end up around 40 peers, but on the Taurus testnet, you might not get that many peers, depending on what the network's like at the time. So what's going to happen is it'll continue to sync. At some point in the future, it's going to do a snap sync, and it'll go from about 0 to like 150,000. It'll get like really close to the current block height. So that's what you're looking for, and it usually can take like 5-10 minutes before it happens, so don't worry. Total time to sync, to become like fully synced with the blockchain, could be like an hour to 2 hours. And then everybody pretty much gets this error here. Don't worry about it too much. I don't know what it is, but every time I've ever run my node, I get it, and my node works fine. Okay, but as you might imagine, like let's close out of this, and we'll do CLS to clear the screen. Every time I run this, I either would have to copy this command and paste it in, which isn't the worst, but like there's better ways to do it in my mind. And what I typically like to do is run it as a script. So a PowerShell script. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to close out of this. And what we need to do is first allow for scripts to be run on your computer. So I'm going to right click on my Windows button down here, and I'm going to open up an admin terminal. And then I'm just going to make sure that my execution policy allows for remote signed. And then I'm just going to close that. So that basically allows us to run scripts locally. And next we're going to open up a notepad in our node directory. So I'm going to right click in our node directory, new, just text document, and I'm going to call it node.sh, or node.ps1, sorry. I'm used to Linux where it would be .sh. And actually, this doesn't mean anything right now. It's still like a text file. Let's just open it up, and we're in Notepad. And what we're going to want to do is just copy the code from the wiki and just paste it in. Now I have to make a few changes because this is for Taurus or Skylake and October 10th, but in here we're actually on November 1st, so you're going to need to update yours too. I'm just going to copy the latest version, and then just before the .exe, I'm just going to paste in the latest version, and that I'm doing v2 now. Everything else you can basically keep the same. You're going to want to, of course, update, if you want to change the name, if you have a different base path location, you're going to want to update that. And then we need to save this as a .ps1, because you can see it's like .ps1.text. So I'm going to do file, save as, instead of text document, I'm going to select all files, and then I'm just going to leave it as node ps1 and click save. Let's see if this works. Okay, so it didn't work how I was hoping it to here. Let's just do node. This is always annoying to me. File, save as, all files, node.ps1. If this doesn't work, we'll try it a different way. Okay, so that time it worked. Let's just delete that text file. And now we should just be able to double click our node here to edit it. So I can double click and it brings it back up to edit it. Or you can right click and then do run with PowerShell. And you can see it's a little bit easier. It then starts running your node. And if you ever want to update it, say you want to do different settings, you can go in here and make your settings, save it, and then run it automatically. Okay, so as mentioned, you do need to have certain ports available by default. Let's go over to the guide actually. By default, the node is going to use 3333 and 3433. So this is actually an example of how to specify alternate ports. So you can add listen on and DSN listen on to change the ports that it uses, the default ports, because you might already have those in use. Probably, I mean, it's kind of random, but if you do, or maybe you have a specific way you label your ports, you can change your default ports. So this would be how you do it. And that's it. So you should have your node running. Eventually, oh, you can see I just got the snap sync where, let me switch back. I just got the snap sync where it's synced all the way up to 143,000 from 0. And I just need to do 30,000 more. And then after that snap sync, you should start seeing some blocks per second show up. It won't always be a number. You can see like sometimes it'll be 0, then 2. But ultimately, this will get synced up, and that's what we're going to want to have before we move on to getting our farmer set up. You can still start setting up the farmer, but typically you're going to want your node to be fully synced by the time you launch your farmer. All right, that's it for this video. If it was helpful, please feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.